Dean Martin walked into a run-down barbershop in 1972 and saw something that made him freeze. The elderly barber cutting hair had no idea he was looking at the man whose confidence he had built 30 years earlier, one conversation at a time, proving that the people who shape our dreams often remain unaware of their profound impact, until life brings us full circle to honor the debt we can never truly repay. It was Tuesday afternoon, October 3, 1972, and Dean Martin was driving through his old neighborhood in Steubenville, Ohio, when his Cadillac developed engine trouble. Dean had been visiting his hometown for a charity event at the local hospital, and he was scheduled to fly back to Las Vegas that evening for a weekend engagement at the Sands Hotel. Dean pulled into a service station on Market Street, just a few blocks from where he had grown up as Dino Crocetti, the son of an Italian immigrant barber. While the mechanic diagnosed his car's problem, Dean decided to walk around the neighborhood and revisit some of the places that had been important during his childhood. As Dean strolled down 4th Street, he noticed that many of the shops and businesses he remembered had closed or changed hands over the years. The Italian bakery where his mother had bought bread was now a check-cashing service, and the music store where he had bought his first guitar had been converted into a small grocery market. But one familiar storefront caught his attention. Benedetti's barbershop still had the same red, white, and blue spinning pole that Dean remembered from his youth, though the paint was faded and the sign needed repair. Through the window, Dean could see an elderly man cutting the hair of a customer, working with the same careful precision that Dean recalled from his own childhood visits to that chair. Dean felt a surge of recognition and nostalgia as he realized that Salvador Benedetti, his childhood barber, was still working in the same location where Dean had received haircuts from age 8 until he left Steubenville to pursue his entertainment career. Salvador Benedetti had been more than just Dean's barber during those formative years. He had been a mentor, a confidence builder, and one of the few adults in Dean's life who had consistently encouraged him to believe that he could achieve something greater than the limited opportunities available in their small steel town. Dean remembered sitting in Salvador's chair every 2 weeks throughout his childhood, listening to the older man's stories about confidence, presentation, and the importance of believing in yourself, even when others doubted your potential. Salvador had taught Dean that how you carried yourself was just as important as any talent you might possess, and that confidence was something you could develop through practice and positive self-talk. "Dino," Salvador used to say while cutting Dean's hair, "you got something special about you. You just need to believe it yourself before anyone else will believe it. Stand up straight, look people in the eye, and never let them see you doubt yourself." Those lessons had become fundamental to Dean's success as a performer. The confidence and stage presence that audiences associated with Dean Martin had been cultivated, in part, during those childhood barbershop conversations with a man who saw potential in a shy Italian-American boy, when others saw only another working-class kid with limited prospects. Dean decided to enter the barbershop and surprise Salvador with a visit. As he opened the door, a small bell announced his arrival, just as it had when he was a child. Salvador looked up from his work, and for a moment his eyes showed confusion as he tried to place the well-dressed stranger who had just walked into his shop. "Can I help you?" Salvador asked politely, his voice carrying the slight Italian accent that Dean remembered from their conversations 3 decades earlier. "Hello, Mr. Benedetti," Dean said with a warm smile. "I don't know if you remember me. I'm Dino Crocetti. You used to cut my hair when I was a kid." Salvador's face transformed as recognition dawned. He set down his scissors and stared at Dean with amazement and joy. "Dino? Little Dino Crocetti? Madonna mia, I can't believe it. You look so famous. You really made it, just like I always said you would." Dean laughed and embraced the elderly barber, feeling genuinely moved by the reunion. "Mr. Benedetti, you were right about everything you told me. I never forgot those talks we had in your chair." As they caught up, Dean learned about Salvador's life since Dean had left Steubenville. Salvador had continued operating his barbershop for over 40 years, serving multiple generations of local families. He had married his childhood sweetheart, Maria, and they had raised 3 children who had all moved away to find better opportunities in larger cities. But Dean could see that Salvador was struggling. The barbershop showed signs of deferred maintenance, with worn linoleum floors, outdated equipment, and a general air of decline that suggested business had been difficult for some time. During their conversation, Salvador's current customer finished his haircut and left, and Salvador offered to give Dean a haircut for old time's sake. "Just like when you were 8 years old," Salvador said with a grin. "But this time, I'm cutting the hair of Dean Martin, the famous entertainer." As Salvador prepared his tools, Dean noticed that the older man's hands had a slight tremor, and he moved more slowly and carefully than Dean remembered from their childhood interactions. It was clear that Salvador was dealing with the physical challenges of aging while trying to maintain his livelihood. While Salvador cut Dean's hair, they talked about the old days, shared memories, and discussed how the neighborhood had changed over the decades. Salvador spoke with pride about Dean's success, mentioning that he had followed Dean's career closely and had told all of his customers about the famous entertainer who used to sit in his chair as a boy. But as their conversation continued, Dean learned that Salvador was facing serious financial difficulties. Business at the barbershop had declined significantly over the years, as younger residents moved away and older customers passed away or could no longer make the trip for regular haircuts. Salvador explained that he was 3 months behind on his rent and was facing eviction from the building where he had operated his business for over 4 decades. He had been trying to find ways to increase his income, including working longer hours despite his arthritis and fatigue, but he was fighting a losing battle against economic changes that had left his neighborhood with fewer potential customers. "I don't know what I'm going to do, Dino," Salvador admitted as he finished Dean's haircut. "This shop is all I know. I've been cutting hair here since before you were born. If I lose this place, I don't have anywhere else to go." Dean was deeply moved by Salvador's situation and felt a powerful sense of obligation to help the man who had played such an important role in building his confidence during his childhood. But Dean also understood that Salvador was a proud man who might be reluctant to accept charity, especially from someone he remembered as a young boy. Dean decided to approach Salvador's problem in a way that would allow the barber to maintain his dignity while receiving the help he needed. "Mr. Benedetti," Dean said after Salvador had finished his haircut, "I want to ask you a favor. I'm planning to do some publicity photos, and I need a barber I can trust to make sure I look perfect. Would you be willing to come to Las Vegas once a month to cut my hair? I'll pay you well for your time and cover all your travel expenses." Salvador's eyes lit up with excitement at the prospect of working with a celebrity client, and he readily agreed to Dean's proposal. They arranged for Salvador to fly to Las Vegas the following month for Dean's regular haircut. But Dean's plan involved much more than monthly haircuts. Over the next several days, Dean quietly contacted Salvador's landlord and arranged to pay off the barber's outstanding rent debt and to prepay his rent for the next 2 years. Dean also arranged for the barber shop to receive new equipment, fresh paint, updated flooring, and other improvements that would help Salvador attract new customers and operate more efficiently. When Salvador arrived in Las Vegas for his first appointment with Dean, he was amazed by the experience of flying first class, staying in a luxury hotel, and working in Dean's private dressing room at the Sands. Dean treated Salvador like a VIP, introducing him to other entertainers and ensuring that he felt respected and valued for his professional expertise. During Salvador's visit, Dean also arranged for him to cut the hair of several other Rat Pack members, including Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr., who were happy to help Dean honor his childhood mentor. These additional appointments provided Salvador with generous tips and the pride that came from working with some of the most famous entertainers in the world. But the most meaningful part of Salvador's Las Vegas experience was the private conversation he had with Dean about their childhood relationship and its impact on Dean's career. "Mr. Benedetti," Dean said, as Salvador cut his hair in the familiar rhythm they had established decades earlier, "I need you to know that everything you taught me about confidence and believing in myself became the foundation of my success. When I'm on stage, performing for thousands of people, I can still hear your voice telling me to stand up straight and look people in the eye." Salvador was deeply moved by Dean's words and felt a sense of pride and purpose that he hadn't experienced in years. "Dino, you were always special. I just helped you see what was already there." When Salvador returned to Steubenville after his first Las Vegas visit, he discovered that his barbershop had been completely renovated and updated. A small plaque near the entrance read, "Benedetti's Barbershop, where confidence is built, one haircut at a time. Established 1932. Salvador initially didn't understand how the improvements had been made. But when he called Dean to thank him for the wonderful Las Vegas experience, Dean explained his role in the barbershop renovation. "Mr. Benedetti, you gave me something more valuable than money when I was a kid. You gave me the confidence to believe I could make something of my life. This is just my way of saying thank you." Salvador was overwhelmed by Dean's generosity, but he was also concerned about accepting such an expensive gift. Dean assured him that the barbershop improvements were not charity, but rather an investment in preserving an important piece of Steubenville's history and ensuring that Salvador could continue serving his community. The renovated barbershop attracted new customers, including younger residents who appreciated the shop's vintage charm and Salvador's old-school barbering skills. Salvador's monthly trips to Las Vegas to cut Dean's hair became legendary in Steubenville, and he often entertained his customers with stories about working with famous entertainers. More importantly, Salvador's financial situation stabilized, and he was able to continue operating his barbershop with dignity and pride for several more years. He used some of the money he earned from his Las Vegas work to help other struggling small business owners in the neighborhood, creating a ripple effect of support within the community. Dean continued to visit Salvador whenever he was in Steubenville, and their relationship evolved from mentor-student to genuine friendship between two men who understood the importance of recognizing and honoring the people who help shape our dreams. Salvador worked until he was 78 years old, finally retiring in 1978 when arthritis made it too difficult for him to hold his tools steady. Dean attended Salvador's retirement party and delivered a speech about the barber's influence on his life and career. "Salvador Benedetti taught me that confidence is not something you're born with," Dean told the gathered friends and family. "It's something you build, one conversation at a time, one encouraging word at a time, one moment of believing in someone's potential at a time." He saw something in a shy little boy that even the boy couldn't see in himself. When Salvador passed away in 1982 at the age of 82, Dean delivered the eulogy at his funeral, speaking about the lasting impact that one caring adult can have on a child's life and the importance of recognizing and honoring our mentors while we still have the chance. The Benedetti Barbershop closed after Salvador's retirement, but the building was eventually converted into a small museum celebrating Steubenville's connection to Dean Martin's early life. A replica of Salvador's barber chair sits in the window, along with photographs documenting the friendship between the famous entertainer and his childhood mentor. If this story of recognizing forgotten mentors and honoring the people who shape our confidence moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this with anyone who needs to remember the importance of acknowledging the teachers, mentors, and guides who helped them believe in their potential. Have you ever had the chance to thank someone who built your confidence when you needed it most? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible stories about gratitude, recognition, and the lasting power of believing in someone's dreams.